Hello, my beautiful beings. Christy Wood Giles here, and we are talking about natural flavors today because I'm sure you noticed them on the labels on the ingredient list, and I'm sure that you usually feel awesome when those are what are flavoring the better choices that you're making. I'm not here to disappoint you, but I do think you really want to know what's going on to enable yourself to make the right decisions. Because unfortunately, it's not exactly as they have presented it to you as being. There's a lot of health foods out there right now, and typically the last ingredient we see is natural flavors. And we feel that we are making better choices, that we're not going for the chemical additives or the artificial flavors. And generally, the better processed packaged foods, the better choices have the natural flavors. We think we're doing it all right. Join me. Let's get engaged on this topic and really go through it because there's just a few small factors you want to know because they are going to make a difference with what you might be trying to accomplish or the results you're trying to get. And this information has such a huge, widespreading impact if you're trying to improve your nutrition in any way. So we want to get down to the dirty pieces of this process and what might really be going on and what you really need to know. So, natural flavors. I know it sounds so good. The term is so vague that it really allows for almost anything to go in there. The one thing you have to know is that natural flavors, really anything that is natural, that is then processed, can come from a natural source, but may not be natural in its final product. And this is what we can sometimes be dealing with when we're dealing with natural flavors. Now, they really work well because they often add two components. They add a really strong, nice flavor to something, and then they add often a nice aroma to something. But they literally can be mostly chemical based, and that's the part that you need to know. So why do we use them? Well, quite often, I think that one of the most common places we see it now is in flavored waters, flavored alcoholic drinks, kind of more club soda type of things. And so generally we think we're making a really good decision for ourselves. And if that's really all it is that product plus natural flavors, then how bad can it be? Because we've often gone on the theory of less ingredients in the list, probably the better the product. So, what has happened is really we have a situation where that term has been implemented in many cases where it wouldn't have been before because it's going to make us feel better about the decisions we're making. And people are looking for better, more natural, more healthful solutions. So, it worked really well, right? Of course it did. What really is going on, though, and a Harvard professor explained this best when they said, if we're looking at artificial flavors and we're not looking at natural flavors, we're actually quite often looking at very similar compounds. In a lot of cases, the molecules themselves can be almost exactly the same. So, what does that mean? Well, you've got something that is produced in a lab and or a factory. If it's produced and has to go through a process, generally there are solvents or other chemicals or other additives that are added to it to make that process happen. Why is this happening? Well, natural flavors are really what we're looking at is the natural ingredient. So, say it was lime or citrus or passion fruit or berries. The taste is appealing to people, but to produce it with that actual product at the intensity that you're producing is not feasible. So, what's happening in the lab is an effort to try and discover the products that are going to replace that taste at a lot cheaper, a lot more effectively, at greater amounts, and with a lot more ease. And there you have it. That's when you end up with the manufactured, more processed, more artificial taste. That's what has to happen to get us there. So it's really, again, the dollar at the end of the day. Why is this important? If you're generally eating better, cleaner foods and you just have this added, well, a lot's going on here. So even if you take, for example, the citrus taste, that actually can be a chemical called citral, which in studies has shown to be a huge skin irritant. So what if that's happening inside of you? We also are drinking and eating these products at higher amounts because we think that they're better for us. And generally, what's happening is a lot can be going on. You don't also know, because you can't identify what's in the product, if it is an allergen to you. Maybe it even is just to you, but not to everybody else. If it is an irritant to your body. And then you have the factor that, regardless, it's a chemical. It is a chemical that is not naturally in its natural state found by your body, and your body may not process it well. It may get stuck in your system, or it just could be reacting with something else and causing a disturbance in your body. And I know you're thinking, oh, she's blowing this way out of proportion. But it's not, because we're getting it in so many places. And people are feeling like they can't figure out why they're not feeling better when they eat better. They're not losing weight when they eat better. And this is a huge piece of it. It doesn't end here. There's so much more to why you want to be aware of what's going on. It's also been proven in studies, and you've probably experienced this yourself, where we have an instinctive ability to crave the foods that will help us get the vitamins and minerals we might be insufficient in. So, for example, have you ever craved something citrus? Well, then it is quite possible that you have a vitamin C deficiency, or your body's looking for a little bit more. The same thing can happen with our desire for salts. It could be any of the trace minerals. We actually have, under very natural conditions, an instinctive ability to associate flavor with the vitamin or mineral deficiency that we have going on or lacking at the time. But what has happened is, because now our flavors are unnaturally formulated and they're intensified, we are losing that ability to react to vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So, quite often, people will crave proteins, especially when they're working out. A lot of that can even come from an iron deficiency or lack of. And so they were looking to red meats and livers and even spinaches and stuff like that that would normally support them. But we actually have decreased our ability to do that significantly. And so we want to recognize how these intensified artificial flavors that come as termed natural flavors can be doing this. You also have the fact that we have this heightened intensity with these flavors. So now when we get it in the natural form, it actually doesn't come across as appealing to us. So if you think of like vanilla, a lot of people will say to me the natural vanilla is very mild. I add a lot to it and really doesn't give me that intensity. Well, our taste buds have become accustomed to the artificial flavor, and now we don't even recognize the natural version as being the actual original natural flavor that we first were attracted to. You also don't want me to really go into where a lot of this vanilla flavoring is. I have to say, I'm a huge culprit. Vanilla flavoring is literally my very favorite taste. If it's in food, I absolutely adore it. And it comes from, and this has been somewhat regulated, but it hasn't been completely banned. But you're looking at beaver secretion. So I'm not trying to disgust you, but I'm sure I already have. It's incredible where some of this stuff comes from. Now, it has been manufactured, so you're not necessarily dealing with it exactly in its natural form. And maybe the one situation where you're happy that you're not dealing with it exactly from its natural form, but it's something to think about. Really, what's happening is these things are coming from a natural source. They're being manufactured with artificial substances and then able to be formulated so that they're intensified. You also have something else going on here where you have what can be considered endocrine disruptors. So, this is really a lot of chemicals, a lot of synthetic materials that, once in the system, screw up our endocrine system. So, that's really a lot of our hormone regulation that's going on. And why this is so important, actually, primarily the key you want to take in here, especially if you're trying to lose weight, is that you have a disruptor that is going to impact your body's messaging to say, one, I'm full, or I'm satisfied. And this is what's happening here. So not only are these chemicals disrupting this, but then get this, you now have what's better termed as not completely natural flavors that have zero ability to send that signal to tell you that you're full, to tell you that you need more, to tell you that you need less, to tell you that you got the vitamins and minerals that you need. There's no messaging happening with these flavors because, at minimum, they have been disrupted enough or modified enough that there is no natural reaction going on in your body from them. And at worst, they are actually disrupting what natural ability you already have to send those signals to your body. So I like the example when someone said, you know how you eat, imagine yourself eating a bag of chips with natural flavors or something that you crave with natural flavors that's kind of a snacky food, and you eat it sort of subconsciously. Interestingly enough, a bit of that subconscious eating is because you actually aren't having a lot going on in your body of the natural signaling that would normally happen. But also, you eat and eat until you actually feel sick or don't feel well or feel stuffed. There's a sign that you're dealing with not natural chemicals, because otherwise those signals would have gone to you. Now, have you ever eaten a meal that is real foods from the real source that doesn't have crazy sauces or flavoring on it, and you eat that you really feel full, but you don't have that gross, I overate, I just kept eating without thinking about it? You're actually really noticing it as you're eating. That's kind of more what you should get as a natural reaction to food when you're dealing with real foods. And what also happens here is when you're eating the unnatural foods, you kind of have a chemical reaction that happens from the intensified flavor. So you're more likely, instead of your body telling you you need these vitamins and minerals, or that you're full, or that you things have been satisfied, you're now going to have more of a chemical reaction that's like a dopamine release or a feel good kind of association with it. But that's actually from the intensified flavor or aroma. And so now you're going to crave this at all times, because your body's always, especially in the world we live in now, always going to be looking for that intensified feel good feeling and crave that, because it's lost the ability to know that the body needs this health boost with these vitamins and minerals, and it's just going to look for the feel good feeling. And you're going to crave those in this cycle of continually intensifying the craving and never satisfying your body's needs. And when we're not satisfied with the vitamins and minerals we need, then your body's going to always be asking for more. Here's the thing: we need about 60 vitamins a day, or sorry, 60 minerals a day, 12 vitamins, other essential fatty acids, and we need to be getting those every day. And so, if we're not eating real foods to get those, and then we're eating these artificial foods that disrupt our ability to call for those or even utilize those, then you're at a significant loss in all terms. The other thing that's happening here is trace minerals. So we need about 60 minerals a day. Those are often found in the trace minerals that we will get in our food. They're actually what add to our flavor, enhance our flavor. Um, and then they're what obviously we have the association with a craving, and then we need more. Now, in our foods with artificial flavor, there's no trace minerals. So not only is it inhibiting our body's ability to tell us when it needs something, we're actually now not getting it. So it's really doing us of no value. The other thing that's happening is a lot of our food is processed, obviously for amounts, content, uh, and quantity. When you do this, it only makes sense that you are going to have a decrease, one in flavor, but two in vitamins and minerals. Why? Because it's not going to be a marketable factor. You're not going to be able to look at a vegetable or even a meat product in the store and go, oh, it's high in vitamins and minerals. That's not a selling feature. It actually usually requires extra time for either growth or the time allowed until it's processed. That's really when a product starts to build its vitamin and mineral and flavor qualities, is when it's a longer term, slower process, natural process, growing process. And so that's the part that's usually going to be left behind, because it's not going to give the product any value as far as what people are looking for or what they're going to buy, because there's really no way to gauge that. So we can be sure that a lot of our foods are nutrient poor. That's a common recognition. We can also recognize that because really most of us are nutrient poor. We're all on vitamins and minerals. We're all dealing with health issues. And this is where it's stemming from. But it also has products that are flavorless, because when you're not building up these nutrients and these vitamins and minerals, you're actually decreasing the flavor of the food. So what do you have to do if you're going to grow it quick? You're going to have to add flavors so that then the product is preferable and pleasurable to the consumer. So now you're going to add the processed flavors, whether they're labeled natural or not, so that you have added flavor to your food. So you can see the vicious cycle we're in. And you can also see the vicious cycle that producers are in, because they're trying to get the product quick and larger and greater quantities to us. They're sacrificing all the flavor that is going to make us want to keep going back for more. So they're going to have to artificially add that. And there's a cycle we're in. And that is why we're losing our ability to recognize what it is we need to eat, when we need to eat it, when we need to stop. And we're sitting in a nutrient deficient situation and continue to sit in this cycle that is going to keep us always wanting more. So, what do? It's actually quite simple. There are so many solutions to this. Unfortunately, the one thing you have to do is start going back to real foods and breaking down the product so that you have control over what adds flavor and what adds whatever added ingredient to your product all by yourself. Citrus flavoring is one of the easiest ones to get on your own. It's simply taking lemons, limes, or oranges and adding them to your drink. I so highly encourage you to start here, because not only will you remember the original taste that you fell in love with in the first place, it also has so many added vitamins and minerals to your system, but you will start to realize that everything works together better when you go back to the original form. Same with your meats, same with your vegetables. Go back to original spices. Spices have so many vitamins and minerals, they're going to add the natural flavors. And as you get back here to all the original forms of all these flavors, you are going to build such a strong connection with your body and knowing what it needs. It will make the connection of, I need this food because I'm lacking this. It's not as complicated as it sounds. If I can give you some advice, is just start slowly. Just pick one product that you eat all the time that might have natural flavors listed in it and start to break it backwards into the components that you have in their original or their real form. We started to use the term clean eating for so long, and it headed in a trajectory that had good intentions. But really, what we've done is we've just gone to all of our foods, processed them with what was originally clean ingredients, but the processing part has made them not clean. So we have to go back. I like to use the term real now. Let's use real food in its original form. Let's put them together. There are actually so many things, the flavors that we add to our food is quite often with the intent to bring out the value of that food on top of the value that is are in the flavored ingredients. So use your citruses, use your spices, look to things like real vanilla. You can even add original stuff, like honey and maple syrup to add more flavors, because you're going to be breaking up a dependency on sweetness and sugar, especially if you're getting away from packaged materials. So don't be hesitant to use those and slowly start to work backwards and decrease them if you want with time. But you are meant to have a connection with your food that is sending signals to your body that is going to help you achieve your goals. And where we are now is what's in our food is disrupting this whole process that is so naturally meant to happen. If you feel like you're making all the right decisions and they're not working for you, this is probably the biggest reason for that. So I hope you don't find this information discouraging, because at first it feels a little overwhelming, but it'll get you back to loving the flavors in your food more than you ever have. And as always, I want to leave you with my parting reminder that you are a beautiful being just as you are. When you embrace your true beauty, prioritize your wellness and self-care, you shine even brighter. And this, my friends, is what illuminates your path to your fullest potential.